Undermined, 11.1. The next patch. Blizzard has refused to address the giant horsecock in the room, and that is, when is this thing actually going to hit? We don't know. But what I will say is the lore build up to this thing has been years in the making. The most persistent villains in Warcraft history. That's right. These goblins have been around for a long time, and specifically, I know at the start of this video, one of the specific cartels has been doing some bad shit for a long time. So this goblin lore has been a build-up. We're getting excited about it. We're getting ready for it. Let's do a quick lore refresh on which goblin cartel is the worst of them all here from Platinum WoW.
The most persistent villain in Warcraft history is not who you'd expect. There have been lots of repeat villains, like demons from space, zombies, or old god minions. But all of these pale in comparison to the unending persistence of the Venture Company.
The Venture
a goblin
Company.
cartel who will stop at nothing for profit.
They are one of the four that we can build up reputation for in Undermined. So interesting.
That means destroying the environment, establishing relationships with morally devious business partners, or outright killing the competition. They are so persistent that they have been enemies we've had to fight in more than half of all of World of Warcraft's expansions.
Wow.
But first, the Venture...
I will quickly say, though, leper gnomes are also something that we've never been able to defeat. Just saying, leper gnomes are a problem. We just refuse to address it.
...was introduced in Classic WoW, and the earliest appearance of them is in the Tarn starting zone of Mulgore, in the appropriately named Venture Co. Mine, to pilfer the homeland of the Tarn's mountains for all it's worth. And while the Tarn are a peaceful people, they weren't going to let this go on much longer, and they attacked the Venture Co. caravans escorting supplies to the mine's entrance. So in Classic WoW and in Cataclysm, players go into the Venture Co. mine and kill a lot of Venture Co. workers, but according to the exploring...
Is that a Dark Iron Dwarf? I believe it is. That's a Classic WoW Dark Iron Dwarf. That's how they used to look, just the black skin with the green, with the red eyes. Interesting. Why would the Dark Iron Dwarves be working with the goblins? Unless he's enslaved, which could be the case. He's a Venture Co. worker. No, he doesn't seem like he's a slave. Interesting.
Azeroth Kalimdor book, even to this day, the Venture Company still have a presence in Mulgore. The Venture Company also has been seen in the Barrens at the Sludge Fen. One thing you'll notice about the Venture Co. that makes them different from other goblin organizations is that they are an equal opportunity employer and will hire any and all races if they're Alliance, Horde, or something in between. Well, you know, as long as they have flexible morals, of course.
Yeah, there you go. So I guess anyone can work for them. That answers my question.
By far, the biggest presence the company has is in the Stone Talon Mountains, in the Windshear Crag, where they are currently underway on a ruthless logging operation and clearing every single tree in sight. The leader of this operation is actually a leper gnome named Gorenzo Ren.
Oh my god. I swear I didn't know this. I did not know this lore. I knew it, man. It all goes back to the fucking leper gnomes. It all goes back to the leper gnomes. I did not pre-watch this. I had no idea they were even going to be relevant in this video whatsoever. I literally threw them out there as a fucking meme when this video started. And look at that. Look at that. It's true. See, Sam. Sometimes the mind of Samiccus, it does amazing things. Look at that. I already knew the leper gnomes were the real enemy.
Whistle, who surveys the ruthless harvesting of materials from above. Gorenzo was formerly the head engineer of Nomergon and was infected with radiation after the city's accident. In order to mend his now rotting flesh, he has begun grafting metal and gears into his body and replacing his limbs with robotic ones.
So he's a mechanome leper gnome. Yep. Okay, so this guy's like the first mechanome then. Yeah, Venture Co. offering more jobs than any other WoW faction. True, they are the main employers of World of Warcraft.
Keep in mind, all this lore, it's from Classic WoW, so he was a mechanome before mechanomes were cool.
Yeah.
Which they never were, but you get what I'm saying. Gorenzo's famous invention is the Super Reaper 6000, a monolithic machine that can clear an entire forest with ease. Another iteration of the Super Reaper was also used by the company in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion in the Grizzly Hills to destroy another forest, which will...
This is blasphemy. The Grizzly Hills, one of the most beautiful zones in the game. I will not build any reputation with Venture Co. because of this shit. Look at what they did.
Cover later in the video, along with a lot of other crimes the Venture Co. has committed.
Theft, manslaughter, embezzlement, bribery, wage theft, fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, forgery, murder, assault, insider trading, jaywalking.
But in Stone Town Mountain, Unfortunately, by the time of the Cataclysm, the venture company had to report to their shareholders that the Windshear Crag was lost, and is now fought over by the Alliance and Horde, but a few determined venture company employees, including Gorenzo, are still defending the water wheel.
Nice.
And finally, in Classic, the company has a presence in the Stranglethorn Vale,
No
where they
way.
are clearing even more forests and harvesting crystals, and later on in Cataclysm started operating oil rigs where they are still active by the time of the Dragonflight Expansion.
Jesus. How did the Horde ever allow the goblins in? They they have issues with the trolls. They had issues with the Tauren. We were just learning about that lore. How did these guys ever get into the Horde? They seem like the most anti-Horde race. Like all the Horde races hated them, and then all of a sudden they're in the Horde now? What the hell?
Operating oil rigs where they are still active by the time of the Dragonflight Expansion.
We bought our way in, yeah.
But that isn't
Makes
all
sense.
of the company's business dealings within the Vale.
No way. They deal with the blood trolls?
I got the best deals anywhere.
Can I interest you in a payment plan?
The Venture Co. has established
It would be great if they just went up to him. They're like, your vehicle's car warranty has ended. We can renew it. Yeah.
trade negotiations with the
They would be the car
notorious
warranty
witch
guys.
doctor Zanzil, who has concocted a wicked poison that can raise people in undeath. Which sounds like a product with a wide customer base, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And the venture company started to export the product to seedy individuals across Azeroth like the Defias Brotherhood. Of
course they
Rogue
did.
players in Classic discover this grand conspiracy during their poison crafting questline. For the Alliance, they travel to Westfall, and for the Horde, they travel to the Barrens. The Grand Foreman of the Barrens Outpost is named Gallywix. Obviously, it isn't the infamous trade Prince
man.
Gallywix of the Bilgewater Cartel, but perhaps it's one of his relatives.
Wait, Puzik Gallywix? Who the hell? Gallywix has relatives? Oh, they don't look like family, that's for sure. Interesting.
Which I think is a pretty neat little detail.
Yeah. The Gallywix name.
Next, in the Burning Crusade expansion, there is some Venture Co involvement, but it's very, very small. We can find the company in the Azure Mist Isle, the starting zone for the Draenor.
How the hell did they
To
get
make
out
an
there?
incredibly convoluted quest line short, a traitorous gnome who is working for Kael'thas Sunstrider has hired the Venture Company to strip mine the Draenei ship that crash landed on Azeroth called the Exodar. Which
They
just
were mining the Exodar. Oh my god, these guys are fucking ruthless, man. This alien race crash lands here, and they could give two shits about who the race is, where they came from, what their plans are. They're like, oh, that thing looks like it's made of crystal. We're gonna go mine it. Yeah.
perfectly encapsulates
Very
the company's
goblin-esque.
greed. No, a spacecraft that is tens of thousands of years old, that can transcend dimensions and warp
Right.
time itself. Ooh, man. I bet there's some valuable resources on there we can harvest. And speaking of harvesting
Well, no one ever
priceless
goes there,
advanced
true.
materials, in the Wrath of the Lich King, the Venture Company set up Swindlegrin's Dig to harvest crystals in the Sholazar Basin. This zone was built by the Titan Keeper Freya as an area of experimentation in the creation of living things. In order to protect this petri dish of creation,
Right,
4
Angora?
pillars were built to control the region's climate and protect the land from evil forces. Although they don't seem to work really well, as one of these pillars was destroyed by the Scourge, and the other is being harvested by the Venture Co., and they're digging out all of the pretty crystals.
Of course they are, yeah.
Even to this day, according to the Exploring Azeroth Northrend book, the Venture Company still has a presence in this zone, and their continued pilfering of shiny crystals could lead to even more damage to the region, more than the Scourge even created.
That's not gonna stop them. Damaging a region for profit, yeah, they don't give a shit.
And as I mentioned earlier, the Venture Co. has a presence in the Grizzly Hills at the logging camp and the Venture Bay outpost. Now there is a very small amount of company workers here. My favorite group of them is them in this building just standing here. No props, no emotes.
Seriously, though, these guys do employ a lot of Azeroth, man. If you take them out, I mean, the unemployment rate's going to skyrocket.
Just standing in a giant
Oh, that was
empty
Sholazar
building.
Basin. Looks like Angora.
Now, the idea behind these two areas is that they're supposed to be like these big world PvP arenas, but nobody actually went to them. There were some daily quests, but like actual PvP did not happen here at all. The only footage I can find of PvP happening here is from 2015, and it's an RP PvP event.
Oh, man. I miss open world PvP. It just was never the same. Wrath, I feel like, was peak open world PvP, and that was because of Wintergrasp. Man, Wintergrasp was so good. My favorite PvP ever put in the game was Wintergrasp, by far. And I'm not a PvPer. I do Plunderstorm. That shit's fun, whatever. I'll do some dabble in it here or there, but Wintergrasp, I did that shit every time it was available.
Again,
I love
according
that
to
thing.
the Exploring Azeroth Northrend book, the Venture Company still has a presence here after the Horde and the Alliance stopped fighting each other and left. Which I think is hilarious. Like, literally every single zone the Venture Company has been in that I've mentioned, they're still there and they haven't left. It's just
There's
like
money to be made.
impossible to get rid of these greedy little goobers. In the Mists of Pandaria, the company is never explicitly involved in anything on the Pandaria continent. But the Black Fuse Company goblins in the Siege of Orgrimmar might be a part of the Venture Co.
Oh,
because
great.
in the next expansion, Garrosh's Iron Horde hired some Black Fuse Company mercs on an island called the Dark Tide Roost. But
I actually
there's-
believe, aren't the Black Fuse going to show up in Undermined? Weren't they considered to be like the 5th? We're not going to necessarily see them right away, but I think they're supposed to show up at some point. And so they were aligned with Garrosh.
the garrison mission
He did
that
nothing
says that
wrong,
it was
so.
actually Venture Co. mercs that were hired at the Dark Tide Roost.
Oh.
The only explicitly stated Venture Co. company NPCs in Draenor
What's up,
are in
Josh?
Talador, and they're operating these shredders and are dead on the ground. But this is still
Talador.
confirmation that they were hired by the Iron Horde. So all of this is to say, the Black Fuse Company might be a part of the Venture Co., and honestly, being heavily involved with a business partner who's a war criminal is something that
Hey, we're not going to sit here and start, ripping the name of Garrosh apart. He did nothing wrong. Man made the Horde a better faction.
I wouldn't put past them. And the next time we see the company is in the battle for Azeroth, and they have a lot of cameos in this expansion. They have an oil rig in Stormsong Valley, a presence in Vol'dun, they're trying to steal resources from Mechagon, they show up in
God.
island expeditions, they're in a random leatherworking quest in Mulgore, they steal a prized hammer from the Dark Iron Dwarves, and are a part of some obscure quest line in Tenaris, revolving around a robotic parrot named Feathers, which I didn't even know was a thing until now, to be honest.
What
but
the
by
hell?
far the most prominent cameo of the company is in the Motherlode dungeon.
Holy crap.
You see, you gotta say it like that because it's in all caps.
Oh, it's double
So
exclamation
during this
point.
expansion, the precious resource called Azerite was an incredibly powerful...
Motherlode returns, doesn't it? It's part of the rotation for Season 2. So, interesting.
hot commodity, and there was a huge swath of it that
means
just
it's
appeared
still
on the
relevant.
island of Kazan. The CEO of the Venture Co., Mogul Razdunk, is using the mine as an opportunity to get stupid rich and
course.
weaponize the Azerite and sell it to the highest bidder, and keep the margins as low as possible with the cheapest labor.
Hey! Where do you think you're going? I don't want to hear no more complaints about no unsafe conditions. If you're complaining, you ain't holding your breath. So it's your own fault for breathing toxic fumes!
Initially, Razdunk made a deal with the Bilgewater Cartel, the Goblin Cartel of the Horde, to refine Azerite for them. But at the very last moment...
So technically, the Bilgewater are the only cartel that's actually part of the Horde. The rest of these goblin cartels are still off doing their own thing. So I guess that kind of, bridges the gap between what I was saying earlier about how the Tauren and the trolls probably hate these guys. Well, it wasn't all the trolls. It was just the Bilgewater trolls. But they're led by Gallywix, who's also, he's Bobby Kotick incarnate.
Goblin Cartel of the Horde, to refine Azerite for them. But at the very last moment, he backed out of the deal.
You'll never take me alive!
Putting
So he
the
betrayed
Horde at a
Gallywix?
disadvantage for the Azerite arms race against the Alliance.
Hey, Mr. Blightcaller, I got some bad news. Mogul Razdunk double-crossed us. It was crazy. I never seen the green bastard back out of a deal like that. You wouldn't believe. Oh.
Pull yourself together, trade prince.
Where the fuck is this simp at, by the way? Where the hell is he? Freaking he loves Sylvanas. Now he's still in the maw. Poor guy.
Such
Story of a
babbling
simp.
does not befit a leader of the Horde.
Well, excuse me, Banshee Prince. Sorry
Banshee
if I'm
Prince.
after nearly getting killed. In a deal I was against making in the first place.
The war chief will not be pleased. We were counting on Razdunk's methods of refining Azerite in our war against the Alliance.
That deal was more trouble than it was worth. There is an easier way to get what we want. By cutting out the middleman, if you get my drift.
Indeed. Champion. Head to Kazan. Acquire the Azerite refining techniques we were promised. And make Mogul Razdunk suffer for
There it is.
breaking his word to the Dark Lady.
So we, the player characters, are sent
So
to
that's
the
why.
Motherlode to
That's why we go to the Motherlode. Oh, so this is really a Horde storyline. The Alliance just kind of participates in it, I guess. Interesting. Zug Zug. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I will go do. Yeah, he's gonna go do his thing. I thought he was dead. He is dead. But Sylvanas' plan was to, like, rescue his soul from the maw, and she kind of just dicked him over. She's like, yeah,
do what we do best.
not gonna do it.
Kill everything in sight, which includes Mogul Razdunk himself.
Do you bums realize how much property damage you've done? You'll pay for that!
yeah, he's dead. So who's their leader now?
But Razdunk's death didn't mark the end of the Venture Co. But perhaps it's for the better. Because in the next expansion, Dragonflight, the higher-ups sent Grimilla
Whoa, I just had a weird feeling when he showed this. I just felt nostalgia for Dragonflight. What the heck? I kind of missed this. Oh, man, the music, this Valdraken. I kind of miss Dragonflight, man.
Dragonflight, the higher-ups sent Grimilla Fizzlecrank
It's good
to
Mythic
the
Plus in
Dragon
Dragonflight.
Isles to see if there were any business prospects to capitalize on the Isle.
Already? Just a
But
little
you
bit.
see, Grimilla, she was so captivated by the Isle's wonder, she said, no, not this time. We don't need to pollute this place and rob it of all of its resources.
What?
It's just too beautiful to do something like
A
that.
goblin with a conscience. Whoa, what the hell?
And you know what?
With a conscience.
That makes sense. This is Dragonflight, the friendship expansion.
Oh, that's true,
Where
yeah.
everyone gets to hold hands and work together as one. All for the greater. Well, guess what? That was a fucking lie. Why would you ever believe anything the Venture Co. mercs say? Grimilla Fizzlecrank is a fake and a fraud because the Forbidden Reach is covered in Venture Company looters raiding the island for its priceless
Of course.
artifacts.
Of course.
And their involvement doesn't stop in the current expansion, The War Within, either. The company has committed a hostile takeover of the Cinder Brew Meadery on the Isle of Dorn. and has
Also,
trapped all of
there you go. So we got Motherlode and Cinderbrew Meadery, both part of the Season 2 Mythic Plus rotation. So there's some story tie-in with all this
the
shit.
molten bees and has increased mead production tenfold. The leader of this operation is my favorite Venture Co. NPC, Goldie Baronbottom, who is the self-proclaimed BEO. But you know, we go in and we kill all the Venture Co. employees in a typical fashion.
Yeah.
They can also be seen in the Ringing Deeps where they're stealing some Titan artifacts. And finally, the Venture Co. can be found in Aj Kahet, where they've been hired by some of the Nerubians in a grand scheme to take down Queen Anzarek. The goblins found themselves in Aj Kahet because they dug through the earth from the Undermined, the goblin capital of Azeroth, and that's going to be the next featured zone in the upcoming patch for The War Within.
Right.
Which I'm sure the Venture Co. will have plenty of screen time in. And that's all of the company's involvement so far, which, like I said, is a lot of screen time for a faction in
That's
the
a
game
lot.
that is kind of inconsequential in the grand scheme of the universe. This isn't some big existential threat like the Legion, Scourge, or the Void. It's just a bunch of jackasses with
persistent
shovels.
threat.
But I think the reason why they are so common in each expansion is that they're just really easy to write into a story of a zone. For each expansion, Blizzard needs to fill zones with mobs for us to fight, and these mobs need stories for why they're there in that
Right.
zone in the first place.
He's
For
right.
Venture Co., It's so incredibly easy to write them in.
They're just
Why
greedy.
are they there? Money.
Yeah.
No complicated culture that can create inconsistencies, no confusion as to why they're there in the first place, no convoluted backstory. The backstory is just profit.
Right.
There's a brutal honesty that comes with the venture company that I think is a breath of fresh air in the Warcraft universe.
Yeah, no retconning
Speaking of,
required.
this video is sponsored by me. The Warcraft universe is outrageously big, and a lot of the more nuanced parts of the narrative are not told in-game. They're told in external books and short stories. But if you visit my Patreon, you can fully immerse yourself in these stories, narrated by me, which include music,
That's actually cool.
ambience, and sound effects, which brings the source material to life.
Wow.
Currently, there's almost 5 hours of narrated immersive content and a new story is uploaded each month. And you can listen to all of them for just $5 a month and support the channel in the process. And most importantly, you can
That's
sign
actually a
up
cool
for
Patreon
free
benefit.
to listen to previews for each of these stories. So go visit my Patreon, patreon.com/platinumwow, to get hours worth of content for just a few dollars a month. And of course, thanks for watching.
Yeah, great video. I mean, Platinum WoW's videos are always great, so that's not a surprise. But the Venture Co., we're going to be getting some reputation with them very soon, and they are persistently fucked up, which is cool. The Goblin lore is cool overall. There's a lot of funny stuff like that about them, and yeah, not surprised that the Venture Co. has been around as long as they have and been greedy for as long as they have. Great video from Platinum WoW. Excited to see where the Venture Co.'s lore continues forward.